Today's video is going to be all about my top 10 all-time favorite coloring supplies, not including books. That's a whole other video. So we'll keep that for another time. But if I was only allowed to buy 10 coloring supplies, these would be the ones that I would choose. So these are the ones that I use on nearly every page I do, and I couldn't live without. So in no specific order, let's start off with Prismacolors. Prismacolors are definitely my go-to pencils. The colours are super pigmented and they blend really, really well. They're super soft and just really smushy to colour with. When I first got them, I did have problems with the leads breaking a lot because they are so soft, the leads break quite easily. I've since seemed to solve that problem. I also read that leaving them out in the sun really helps to melt that wax and blend them back together. So I do leave them out quite a lot outside, and when I go traveling, I'll just leave them in my warm car. And that seems to have stopped a little bit of the problem with the leads breaking. I do keep mine in this pencil case here. I do have quite a few pencils in this pencil case at the moment because I've been traveling. So before, I usually will just have all my Prismacolors in here. At the moment, I've got all my types of pencils all mixed together because I've been traveling. It's easy just to take the one pack. But I do have all the Prismacolor pencils. I got a super, super good bargain on Amazon Australia. It was like $100 for the full pack. And I've never seen it that cheap before. So that was probably halfway through this year I got that. It was just like one of those half-day deals. You know how they have the timed deals? So I was stoked when I got that. And with my swatching, I just have this color chart here, which I've swapped all the colors out, and then I just keep it in this pencil case so it's always there when I need to use it. So I'll show you a page that I have done in all Prismacolor. So I've just done this one here. So this one here is colored entirely in Prisma. There's a couple of dots here with a white Posca, but most of it is just completely in Prismacolor. So super smushy, really nice to use. And if you are using Prismacolor, I definitely recommend that you get a colourless blender. If you want to be able to blend that smushy colour into a nice, smooth gradient, these are the go. So my second favourite supply is an electric sharpener. I've got the Tenwin, and it's got, on here you can change the length of the pencil you want it sharpened at, but I just keep it at the 1. It doesn't make it too long. And it will definitely stop your leads from breaking if you're using Prisma. This is one of the things that just, since I've got this, I hardly ever have broken leads. So I'll sharpen a pencil and you can see how it goes. So it's super easy, it just pops right in there. Push it down, and then there you go, it's perfect. Beautiful clean tip. I love it. It just drives me bonkers using like an actual sharpener all the time. This just gets it done within seconds. So that is definitely a must-have on my list. These are my Spectrum Noir Tri-Blend alcoholic markers. These are quite new to my collection of colouring supplies. I've only had them for about 3 months, but I've fallen in love with them. They are amazing. So they're just like normal alcohol markers, but the way they work is they have 3 shades to them. So they'll have light, medium, and then they'll also have a dark at the end here. So it cuts out all that worry of trying to find the colours that will blend correctly together. And also it's like 3 colours in one basically. So I do have quite a few. I don't have the whole set. I got them secondhand and I wish I would have bought more, but I wasn't sure if I would have liked them or not, but I do. So I'll show you how they work. Just grab one here. Let's move these out of the way. This is the way I do it. People do it differently, but I will start off with the light. And take into the mid, going over the light a little bit. I will grab the light again. Just go into it over here. And then grab the blue. Go over the join with the mid. And then I will usually, if it's not a massive area, I'll go over the whole thing with the light once again. And then you get this really beautiful blend. So I didn't have to think about the colours that go together. That was just really nice and cruisy. So if I think to myself, I want a blue blend, I'll just grab the blue and then all the colours will be there. But there's one downside to these. They are super pricey. And although I would like to add more to my collection, it's something that I'm going to have to do bit by bit because they are really, really expensive. I will show you the colours that I've got on my swatches. So these are the colours that I have. And I've coloured in this page with them. So just with this one here. So basically I based the whole page. So all the background, I didn't do the flowers here, but I've done the leaves, the background, I've done all these mountains and also the water. So I do use them a lot for basing, and then I will go over the top with my Prismacolors. So that's what I've done there. So my next favourite is Caran d'Ache Neocolor 2s. These are little magical sticks of joys, and I'm not even exaggerating. I can use these in so many ways on one page and get so many different effects. So just know that there are two different types of Neocolors. There's Neocolor 1s and Neocolor 2s. And the difference between them is Neocolor 2s are water soluble, while Neocolor 1s aren't. So they're just more of a crayon, whereas Neocolor 2s are water soluble. I would definitely recommend getting the Neocolor 2s because you can use them both ways. So you can use them with water or without. So you've got most of both worlds there. I have bought all mine in open stocks and I don't have all the colours. These also are quite pricey. So I decided that I'll just slowly build up my collection with the colours that I use. Obviously, I do want more colours and there's a lot more colours out there, but I'm happy with these and I will occasionally buy one or two different colours when I think that I need it and just add it to my collection. The amazing thing about these two is the pigment is strong, like really, really strong. So I'll show you in here, I've done a whole page using just the Neocolors and I've used them in all different ways. I have got a video that I've done that actually shows me from start to finish of this image here and all the different techniques I've used. So everything on here is Neocolors, except for obviously the Tooli Art paint pens that are just outlining a couple of things, but everything else is Neocolors. And I've used them in quite a few different ways. So this one here, I've just put the Neocolor crayon down straight onto the page and then just used water. And that gives this beautiful, see how it just blends really beautifully up here. And it also gives that really intense color. Then here, I've done the same thing where I've just put the Neocolor crayon straight down onto the page. But I have blended them with gesso and water together and that gives more of a muted look. I've also on the outside here just put a little bit down on the side and then blended it out. So you can go from a dark to a light blend. Also I have on here and on the deer here, I've put the Neocolor straight onto a palette. And then from that palette, I've picked it up with the water. So I've made it more into like an actual watercolor. So then just painted it straight onto here with my paintbrush. And then I've also popped in some shadows with and added some depth in there with the crayon dry on her body here. Also, I've added white crayon on top of these love hearts here. So that's what you can do with Neocolors. You can do a whole heap. And I really like the way this finished. And I do have another page I can show you where I've used Neocolors in this book actually. I've used them for this background. So you see how bright it is? It's really, really lovely and bright, and the blend's really beautiful as well. So they are really handy when you're doing backgrounds or large areas that you want to do quickly. I use them a lot in backgrounds. I've got a page in here as well. I basically just, the rest of this isn't Neocolors, but this around here is Neocolor. So this was just all white and I wanted to fill it up really quickly. So I just put a little bit of Neocolor around the side and blended it out with water. Just a really, really great tool to have, and one of those ones that are just really fun and enjoyable to use as well, because you can use them in so many different ways. So these are my Tooli Art acrylic markers. I use these a lot for doing highlights. Also, I love to cover up the black lines as well in my images to make it look a little bit more like a painting than a colouring page. I find that these are really good size. The nib is a nice size. It's not too big, nor is it too small. Although sometimes I do find them a little bit chunky for the really fine lines. You can get lots of different colours in this. I've got 2 packs, and the packs that I've got are the pastel colours and also the jewel colours. So these here are an example of the jewel colours. Those really deep, beautiful colours. And then we've got the pastel colours. And we all know what pastel colours look like, just like these. I do feel like I use the pastel colours more because I use them a lot for highlights. But the jewel colours do also come in handy. But if I was to buy only 1 pack, it would be the pastel colours. I keep them in this container, which is awesome because they have the numbers, if you can see. I just put the lid on actually, so they don't fall out everywhere. So they have the numbers in here that you can read. I'm not sure if you can see them. And I can easily just chuck them in there and I can flip it to either way and see what number I want. And then I can get them out without hunting through. It's more annoying to me to have them in like a pencil case and have to constantly be pulling them out because they're just that bit thick. But if I do it that way, I can easily see what I'm after and grab what I want. There is one downside to these, and that is that they do dry up sometimes. So I have found that the nibs do get a little bit clogged up. Now, they say that if you take it out, you can get a tissue and take this nib out, and then you can wash it in water. And they say if you do that after every go, you won't have a problem with them drying out. But to be completely honest, I'm not going to do that after every time I use it because I just can't be bothered. So what I have been doing is probably every couple of months I will go through, open them up and see which ones need to be washed, and I'll take the nib out and just wash a whole load together. And I found all of them are still working and they're fine. There is one that, I can't remember what colour it is, but there's one that's clogged up and that's done for. I think it's this red here. And that's done for, that won't work, but everything else is working fine. So if you are patient enough to clean them after every use, you'll be fine. You won't have to worry about them clogging up. So you can see in this image that I showed you before that just here, all these lines here, I've gone around with the Tooli Art paint pen just to make the black lines go away and the highlights pop out. Also in this one, I've used the Tooli Art paint pen to go around all the black lines in the water here and then around the witch as well. And just a lot of outlining, just covers up those black lines. There's actually quite a lot in this picture too. So you can see down here, I went around all the flowers. I've actually used them a lot in this picture. For all those flowers. So these are my Crayola Super Tips. This is the cheapest supply I have, but I really, really enjoy using them. And the way I use them is a little bit different than the way that most people would use the textures. I dilute them with water and use them as a watercolour. So for example, I'll show you a picture that I've done, a couple of images that I've done using them that way, and then I'll give you an example of how I do it. on this one, I've just coloured in around the edge, and then I've got a water pen and just brought this colour out. I've done on this one here, I've done the same on here, and then on this little man here, I have done it slightly different. So I'll do it on a page here just so we can have a look. So the way I do it is I get the texture and I'll just colour it in, and I will just put some water in my pen, mix it in, you see how it turns into a little bit of watercolour. And then I'll just paint that straight onto the page. So it just works like watercolour. Do this one as well. This is not the best paper. This is just Amazon paper just to show you what it does. But that's how I use it, and it's really handy. If you do want to make a different colour, you can always mix the colours. I want to have that light colour and then a tiny little bit of this in there. I can just mix a little bit. And that's a great way to do it as well. The funny thing is, it works so differently on different papers as well. So this Amazon paper I've actually found it doesn't work too badly on, but this is Australian Amazon paper, which I have heard is quite thicker than the US Amazon paper. So I find it actually doesn't work too bad on this. There's some papers that it is really good on that will just spread it out fantastically, and some papers that it won't take to at all. You'll just have to be experimental with the papers that you use and see which one works. I'll show you an image that I've done in one of my books that I find works really well. So in this Escape to Oz by Good Wives and Warriors, I find that I really like the way that it works. So with this book, I will use it on the palette. So I'll put the color down on the palette and then go from there and pick it up. And I've colored this whole thing in with the Crayola Super Tips that way. So with this paper, it really, really works. And I like how it gives the really watercolor effect here. And I like how it blends. You can see it blends really well up here. Yeah, it just works really, really well on some paper. And this book, these Good Wives and Warriors books seem to take it really well. So my next favourite is Derwent Inktense pencils. So I have got them mixed in here, like I said before. But if I get some out, I can have a look. I haven't got all of them, but what I've done with this as well is I bought a smaller pack, and then once again, I've just bought open stock with the colours that I want. So the difference between Inktense and watercolour pencils is that the pigment inside of these is more of an ink, whereas in the watercolour, it's more of a paint. So basically in watercolour pencils, when you use them, they will reactivate. So once you lay them down and then use the water over the top, and then try and put another layer on top of that that's a water medium, you will reactivate that first layer that you pop down of the watercolor pencil. Whereas these, because they're ink based, that doesn't happen. So once you've laid them down and activated them and they're dry, that's it, they'll stay dry and they won't move. So it means that you can layer up this medium or layer up other wet mediums on top of the Inktense, which comes in handy when you are trying to get deeper blends or do the shading. You also get really deep pigment from these as well. It seems like all the products that I like give you really like deep and strong pigment, because I like that when I'm colouring in. So this one here, if you can see, just for example, not the whole page, but I've done the whole background in the Inktense pencils. So you just activated the water, but you can see how they blend really, really nicely, and then also how deep that pigment is. So there's also this one here I've done primarily in Inktense. Obviously there's some Tooli Art paint pen in there and some metallic watercolour, but apart from that, most of it is Inktense. So it blends really nicely and the colours are really, really nice to use. So I use Inktense both wet and dry. So with these, I have used it wet as an undercoat, and then I've gone on top of it dry as well. I also love Paul Rubens Neon watercolours. I just bought my pack in the tubes and then just made the palettes up myself. I just bought this little palette tin from Amazon. And I just filled the palettes myself. So these are the colours. They're so beautiful and bright. And I just love them for adding a little bit of pop to my images. An example of where I've used them is just this book here. So if you can see, this is a watercolour book. So this is all watercolour. And this is the neon here, just the pink. So it just adds that little bit of pop and brightness. That's why I like using them. And while we're on the watercolours, I've also got Gansi Tambi watercolours, which I absolutely love. You can use them really deep colour, like more like a gouache, and then you can also use them more like a really light wash watercolour as well. So they do come in really handy. I mostly use these for my backgrounds. So just for a nice quick background that you can get done, but it's also really impactful. That's what I use these for. The colours are really pretty. I'll show you here. So they're the colours. This here is a background that I've done in the Gansi watercolours. And in this watercolour book, I have done this page in them as well. I also love my Ohuhu water-based markers. I know Ohuhu have just brought out new water-based markers and I haven't tried them yet, but I love these ones here. I use these a lot for basing. So when I'm doing an image and I want an undercoat that I can use pencil on top of, this is what is my go-to. The main difference between these and alcohol markers is that these will leave a streaky effect. Whereas alcohol markers, if you use them correctly, they won't streak. Whereas these, I haven't found a way not to make them streak. So I do find that I do have to put Prismacolor over the top or Inktense or something else over the top. But the colour choice in them is brilliant. I do wish they had more pastel-y colours, but I do find that these colours do work for me. They really come in handy if you want to do that base coat, but you have paper that's not great and other stuff will bleed through, whereas these usually will not bleed through the paper. So you can use double-sided pages with these and get away with it. I'll show you this image in Tanglewood again. The only two things I used on this image was the Inktense, which I showed you earlier. And then I did also use my Ohuhu water-based markers. So here is, this bright pink here is Posca, but everything else. You'll see where I've put the water-based marker here. You can see the lines here, and I didn't put colour over the top. But with these ones here, which are the water-based markers, you can see I put the dry Inktense over the top just to cover up those lines slightly. And here, because this is Zentangle, I didn't find the need to cover up those streaky lines, but usually I will definitely cover up all the streaky lines. So you can see the streaks a little bit. It doesn't bother me that much in this image. I would love if you could leave in the comments below and let me know what your absolute favourite cannot live without colouring supply is. Thank you so much for watching, and I will chat to you later. Bye.